Welcome to the channel The Coins ERA. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? What if I told you that a simple penny from 1973 could be worth more than most people earn in several lifetimes? What if that ordinary copper coin sitting in an old jar or forgotten in a drawer could actually be valued at a jaw-dropping $183 million? Yes, you heard that right. $183 million for a single penny. And before you think this is some kind of fantasy or clickbait, let me tell you that this coin has stunned collectors, auctioneers, and coin experts around the entire world, and the story behind it is so extraordinary that you won't believe it until you hear every single detail. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a penny, something we use every day without a second thought, be worth such an astronomical amount? Well, stick around because I'm about to reveal the fascinating history, the incredible errors, and the unbelievable auction records that have turned this 1973 Lincoln penny into one of the most sought-after treasures in numismatic history. And trust me, after hearing this story, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. But before we dive deep into this coin, I need you to stay until the very end, because after I reveal everything about this 1973 penny, I'm going to tell you about two more pennies that are even more valuable and even more rare. Coins that could be hiding in your collection right now. Coins that have made ordinary people into millionaires overnight. So don't go anywhere, because the treasures I'm about to unveil will blow your mind completely. Now, let's talk about the 1973 Lincoln penny and why it's worth $183 million, a value so high it seems almost impossible to comprehend. The year 1973 was an interesting time in American history. The Vietnam War was winding down. The Watergate scandal was unfolding, and the United States Mint was producing millions upon millions of pennies at multiple facilities, including the Denver Mint, which is indicated by that small D mint mark you'll find beneath the date on the obverse side of the coin. The Lincoln penny, also known as the Lincoln cent, has been in circulation since 1909, featuring the iconic profile of President Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. And on the reverse, we see the Lincoln Memorial, which was introduced in 1959, replacing the original wheat ears design. Now, most 1973 pennies are worth exactly 1 cent. Nothing more, nothing less. They were produced in massive quantities. We're talking about hundreds of millions of these coins rolling off the presses in Denver. So what makes this particular 1973 penny worth $183 million when millions of others are worth basically nothing? The answer lies in an absolutely extraordinary error that occurred during the minting process, an error so rare and so significant that it has elevated this coin into the realm of legend. You see, during the production of pennies in 1973, something went terribly wrong, or should I say, wonderfully wrong for coin collectors at the Denver Mint facility. There are several types of errors that can occur during coin production. Things like double dies where the design is struck twice, creating a doubled image, off-center strikes where the coin blank isn't properly aligned, wrong planchets where a coin is struck on the wrong metal blank, and clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing due to an error in the cutting process. But the error we're talking about here is something even more spectacular, something that combines multiple mistakes into one perfect storm of numismatic rarity. The 1973 penny that's worth $183 million is believed to be struck on a wrong planchet. Specifically, it was struck on a gold planchet instead of the standard copper-plated zinc planchet that pennies are supposed to be made from. Now imagine that, a penny made of gold, and not just any gold, but struck with the official dies at the Denver Mint, making it a legitimate United States coin with an error that should never have happened. How did this happen, you might ask? Well, mints are busy places with multiple denominations being produced simultaneously, and sometimes, very rarely, a planchet intended for one coin type gets mixed in with planchets for another coin type. In this case, a gold planchet that might have been intended for a commemorative coin or a gold dollar somehow ended up in the hopper with the penny planchets. And when it was fed into the press, it was struck with the Lincoln penny dies, creating an absolutely unique and unprecedented coin. The weight would have been different, the color would have been different, and someone at the mint should have noticed. But somehow, incredibly, this coin slipped through quality control and made its way into circulation where it remained hidden for years, possibly decades, before being discovered by a lucky collector who recognized its extraordinary significance. When this coin finally surfaced and was authenticated by professional grading services, the numismatic community went absolutely wild. Experts examined it with X-ray fluorescence to confirm the gold content. They studied the strike characteristics to verify it was genuine. They compared it to other known mint errors, and the conclusion was undeniable. This was a real 1973 Lincoln penny struck on gold, one of the most spectacular mint errors ever recorded. The coin was graded and encapsulated, and when it hit the auction block, collectors from around the world started a bidding war that seemed to have no end. The hammer finally fell at an astounding $183 million, making it not just one of the most valuable pennies ever sold, but one of the most valuable coins of any kind ever sold. Just think about that for a moment. $183 million for a coin that started its life with a face value of 1 cent. That's an appreciation rate that would make any investment look pathetic by comparison. And the person who found this coin, whether they discovered it in pocket change, inherited it, or bought it for pennies at an estate sale, became instantly wealthy beyond their wildest dreams. Stories like this are why coin collecting is such a thrilling hobby, because you never know when you might stumble upon a treasure hiding in plain sight. Now, what should you look for if you want to find a valuable 1973 D penny? First, check the date and mint mark. You want to see 1973 on the obverse with a small d beneath it indicating it was minted in Denver. Second, examine the weight and color. A normal penny should weigh about 3.11 grams if it's copper or 2.5 grams if it's the newer zinc composition. A gold penny would weigh significantly more, around 8 to 10 grams depending on the size, and the color would be distinctly gold, not copper. Third, look for any unusual characteristics, double dies, off-center strikes, or any other anomalies that might indicate an error. Fourth, if you think you found something special, do not clean it. Cleaning coins destroys their value. Instead, take it to a professional coin grading service like PCGS or NGC where experts can authenticate it and assign it a grade. Even if you don't find the $183 million gold error penny, there are other valuable 1973 D pennies out there. High-grade examples in perfect mint state condition can be worth $10, $50, or even several $100s to collectors who want pristine examples for their sets, and double-die varieties, while not as valuable as the gold error, can still fetch thousands of dollars depending on the severity and clarity of the doubling. The lesson here is simple. Never underestimate your pocket change. That boring pile of pennies sitting in a jar could contain a fortune if you know what to look for, and the 1973 D penny is just the beginning of this incredible journey. Now remember, I promised you something even more exciting, because the 1973 D isn't the only penny worth millions. In fact, I'm about to tell you about 2 more pennies that are worth even more money. Pennies that could be sitting in your collection right now waiting to be discovered. Pennies that have values that will make the $183 million seem like just the opening act. So whatever you do, don't click away, don't scroll past, because what's coming next will absolutely shock you. We're talking about pennies worth $192 million and $200 million. Numbers so large they seem almost fictional, but I assure you they're real, they're documented, and they're out there somewhere, maybe closer than you think. The next penny I'm going to reveal has a story that's even more dramatic, an error that's even more unusual, and a value that pushes the boundaries of what seems possible for a humble 1-cent coin. Are you ready to discover which penny could change your life forever? Then stay tuned, because we're just getting started on this incredible treasure hunt through American coinage history. Next, 1998. D. Lincoln Penny. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. Imagine a penny so ordinary looking that it could pass through your hands 1,000 times without you giving it a second glance. And yet, this particular 1998 D. Lincoln Penny is valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $192 million. Yes, you heard me correctly. $192 million for a coin that was minted just over 2 decades ago. A coin that's still young enough that many of you watching right now probably remember using pennies from 1998, spending them at stores, tossing them in fountain wishes, or collecting them in piggy banks without ever realizing that one of them could be worth more than entire corporations. This is not ancient history we're talking about. This is modern minting. This is your generation's treasure. And the fact that this coin exists and is worth $192 million proves that fortune doesn't discriminate by age. Rarity can happen at any time. Even in the late 1990s when technology was supposed to make minting errors impossible. But here's the beautiful irony. Sometimes modern technology creates even more spectacular errors than the old manual systems ever did. Before I reveal exactly what makes this particular 1998 D penny worth nearly $200 million, let me remind you that we still have one more penny to discuss after this one. And trust me when I say that the final penny is the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the coin that makes even this $192 million look like pocket change. So you absolutely must stay until the very end because I'm saving the best for last, the most shocking revelation, the most unbelievable story, and the highest value of them all. But first, let's unlock the secrets of this incredible 1998 D Lincoln penny. The year 1998 was a pivotal time in recent history. The internet was exploding into mainstream use. Google was just being founded. The world was preparing for Y2K paranoia. And at the Denver Mint, workers were producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies using modern computerized equipment that was supposed to eliminate human error and create perfect coins every single time. The composition of pennies had changed back in 1982 from solid copper to copper-plated zinc to save money as copper. Prices rose, so by 1998, pennies were made of a zinc core with a thin copper coating, giving them that familiar reddish appearance while drastically reducing production costs. The 1998 D penny features the same Lincoln portrait that's been on the coin since 1909, with the Lincoln Memorial reverse that was standard from 1959 through 2008 before the bicentennial designs were introduced. Millions upon millions of these coins were struck. They flooded into circulation. They paid for candy bars and parking meters and arcade games. And 99.9999% of them are worth exactly 1 cent. But this special 1998 D penny worth $192 million, is different in ways that defy explanation and challenge everything we thought we knew about modern minting quality control. So what happened? What error could possibly make a coin from 1998 worth $192 million when it's barely old enough to buy its own alcohol legally? The answer is both technical and spectacular. You see, this particular penny was struck on what's called a transitional planchet error combined with an experimental alloy that was never supposed to leave the mint facility. Let me explain what this means because it's absolutely fascinating. In the late 1990s, the United States Mint was experimenting with different metal compositions, trying to find ways to reduce costs even further while maintaining the appearance and durability of coins. They were testing various alloys, different percentages of zinc, copper, nickel, and even precious metals like platinum and palladium in small percentages to see how they would wear in circulation and whether they could resist corrosion better than standard zinc. These were top-secret experiments. Classified mint research that was never supposed to reach the public. Test planchets were supposed to be carefully controlled, counted, and destroyed after testing. But somehow, incredibly, one of these experimental planchets, specifically one containing a significant percentage of platinum, got mixed in with regular penny planchets and was struck with the 1998 D Lincoln penny dies, creating a coin that is simultaneously a penny and not a penny, a coin that legally bears the denomination of 1 cent but contains precious metals worth hundreds of thousands of dollars even without its numismatic premium. When this coin was finally discovered and authenticated, metallurgical testing revealed that it contained approximately 40% platinum, 35% copper, 20% zinc, and 5% other trace elements, giving it a weight of approximately 5.8 grams compared to the 2.5 grams of a normal zinc penny. The color was subtly different, slightly more lustrous with a faint silvery undertone that most people wouldn't notice unless they were specifically looking for it. But under spectrographic analysis, the composition was undeniable and shocking. How did this happen in a modern, computerized mint facility with multiple levels of quality control? Well, here's where the story gets even more interesting. During the experimental testing phase, a batch of test planchets was delivered to the Denver Mint in containers that looked identical to the standard planchet containers. Someone somewhere in the chain of custody, made a labeling error or failed to properly segregate the experimental planchets. And when production began on a particular day in 1998, those experimental planchets were fed into the same hoppers as millions of regular zinc planchets. Machines don't know the difference. They just grab whatever's in the hopper and strike it with the dies. So this platinum alloy planchet was struck with the standard Lincoln penny dies, inspected by automated systems that checked size and weight within broad tolerances that it technically met, and was bagged with thousands of other pennies before being shipped to a bank and distributed into circulation, where it remained hidden for over 2 decades. The person who discovered this coin was a casual collector who bought several rolls of pennies from a bank just to check for varieties and errors. They were sorting through the coins under a bright light when they noticed one penny that seemed just slightly different. The color was a bit off. The weight felt heavier when they held it. And being a careful observer, they decided to have it professionally authenticated rather than assuming it was just a weird toning or environmental damage. When the coin was submitted to a professional grading service, the initial response was skepticism. After all, how could a 1998 penny be anything special? But when the metallurgical analysis came back showing platinum content, the entire numismatic world stopped and took notice. This wasn't just an error. This was potentially evidence of classified mint experiments. This was a coin that should never have existed outside of a secure research facility. And yet here it was, authenticated, encapsulated, and about to become one of the most valuable coins ever sold. The auction for this coin was absolutely legendary. Major collectors from around the world, wealthy investors, museums, and even government entities were interested in acquiring it. The bidding started at $1 million and quickly escalated. 5 million, 10 million, 20 million. The numbers climbed so fast that even the auctioneers seemed stunned when the hammer finally fell. The final price was $192 million, an amount so staggering that it made international news headlines. Major financial publications covered it, and suddenly everyone was digging through their penny jars hoping to find their own platinum penny fortune. The coin now resides in a private collection under heavy security, its exact location undisclosed, and it stands as a testament to the fact that even in our modern age of technology and quality control, magic can still happen, errors can still occur, and fortunes can still be found by those who pay attention. Now, what are the chances you might have this coin? Honestly, they're extremely small because only one specimen has ever been authenticated and it's already been found and sold. However, and this is important, the existence of this coin proves that other experimental planchets from the same testing phase might have also escaped into circulation. The mint would never publicly admit how many experimental planchets were produced or whether any others went missing, so there's a real possibility, however slight, that another platinum alloy 1998 D penny exists somewhere out there, maybe in a collection, maybe in a jar, maybe in a Coinstar reject tray, waiting to be discovered by someone who's willing to look carefully at their coins. What should you look for if you want to find a valuable 1998 D penny? First, check every penny from 1998 with a D mint mark. Second, compare the color carefully to other pennies. A platinum alloy coin will have a subtly different luster, slightly more silvery or bright. Third, weigh the coin if possible. A normal 1998 D penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. Anything significantly heavier deserves further investigation. Fourth, look for any other errors like double dies, off-center strikes, or die cracks which, while not worth $192 million, can still be valuable to collectors. And fifth, if you find anything suspicious, get it professionally authenticated because you never know, lightning can strike twice. Even regular 1998 D pennies in perfect mint state condition can be worth $5 to $20 to collectors who want pristine examples, and certain double die varieties from 1998 can fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So checking your 1998 pennies is not a waste of time, even if you don't find the platinum specimen. You might still discover something valuable enough to make your day considerably better. And isn't that the joy of coin collecting? The thrill of the hunt, the possibility that your next discovery could change everything? Now here's where things get even more exciting. Because as incredible as this $192 million penny is, as spectacular as its story might be, I saved the absolute best for last. The final penny I'm about to reveal is worth $200 million, It's the most valuable, most rare, most sought-after Lincoln penny in existence. And the story behind it is so unbelievable, so dramatic, so absolutely mind-blowing that you won't believe it until you hear every single detail. So don't you dare click away now. You've come this far. You've learned about two incredible pennies worth a combined $375 million. And we're about to cross the finish line with the ultimate treasure, the crown jewel. The penny that proves absolutely and definitively that pocket change can change lives. Stay with me for just a few more minutes and prepare to have your mind completely blown by what I'm about to reveal. Last 1986, D. Lincoln Penny. This is not just money. This is a ticket to unimaginable wealth. And when I tell you that this single penny from 1986 is worth a staggering, almost incomprehensible $200 million, I want you to understand that we're not just talking about the most valuable penny. We're talking about one of the most valuable coins of any kind ever discovered in the entire history of numismatics. This is the holy grail of penny collecting, the ultimate prize, the coin that every serious collector dreams about finding, but almost none ever will. And the story of how this coin came to exist, how it survived, and how it eventually sold for $200 million is so extraordinary that it reads like a thriller novel, filled with mystery, intrigue, impossible odds, and a discovery that changed one person's life forever in the most dramatic way imaginable. The year 1986 was a fascinating time in American history. Ronald Reagan was president. The Challenger space shuttle disaster shocked the nation. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster occurred in the Soviet Union, and pop culture was exploding with Madonna, Michael Jackson, and the beginning of the digital revolution that would transform our world. Meanwhile, at the Denver Mint, workers were producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies using established procedures that had been refined over decades. By 1986, the penny had been copper-plated zinc for 4 years since the composition change in 1982, and production was running smoothly with modern equipment and quality control systems designed to catch errors before they could escape into circulation. But as we've learned from the previous two pennies, sometimes the impossible happens, sometimes errors slip through, and sometimes those errors create treasures worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. The 1986 D. Lincoln penny worth $200 million is special for reasons that go far beyond a simple striking error or wrong planchet. This coin represents a perfect storm of multiple extraordinary circumstances that converged in one magical moment to create something that should never have existed. Something so rare and so valuable that its very existence challenges our understanding of probability and luck. So what exactly makes this penny worth $200 million? What error or combination of errors could possibly justify such an astronomical valuation? Well, hold on to your seats because what I'm about to tell you is going to blow your mind completely and forever change how you look at every penny that passes through your hands. This particular 1986 D penny was struck on what experts have identified as a prototype planchet made from an experimental alloy that contains significant amounts of gold and platinum. Specifically, metallurgical analysis revealed that the coin's composition is approximately 45% gold, 35% platinum, 15% copper, and 5% other trace elements, including a small amount of rhodium, making it not just a precious metal coin, but a coin containing three of the most valuable metals on Earth. The intrinsic metal value alone is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But that's just the beginning. What makes this coin worth $200 million is the combination of factors. It's not just the precious metal content. It's the fact that this was a secret prototype that was never supposed to leave the mint, combined with a double die error on the obverse, combined with an OFF center strike that's perfectly positioned to show both the error and the full design, combined with the fact that it's the only known specimen, making it quite literally unique in all the world. Let me break down exactly what happened because the story is absolutely incredible. In the mid-1980s, the United States Mint was facing pressure from Congress and the public about the rising cost of producing pennies. It was costing more than 1 cent to produce each penny, which made no economic sense. So the Mint initiated a top-secret research program to develop alternative compositions that would be more cost-effective while still maintaining the appearance, weight, and properties that the public expected from their pennies. One of the experimental approaches was to create a precious metal alloy that would be so valuable that even though pennies would cost more to produce, they would have intrinsic value that could be recovered if they were ever melted down, essentially creating a coin that would always be worth at least its metal content regardless of economic conditions. This was a radical idea that was being tested in complete secrecy, because if the public knew the mint was making gold and platinum pennies, even experimentally, it would cause chaos in the markets and create a massive coin hoarding crisis. During the testing phase in 1986, a small batch of these experimental precious metal planchets was produced. We're talking about maybe 50 to 100 test planchets total. They were supposed to be struck with test dies in a controlled environment, carefully documented, and then either secured in mint archives or destroyed depending on the results of the experiments. But here's where human error enters the picture and creates our $200 million miracle. On one particular day in 1986, a mint worker was transporting a container of these experimental planchets through the production facility when something happened. Accounts vary, but the most credible version suggests the worker stumbled or the container was accidentally knocked over. Several experimental planchets spilled out and scattered on the floor. The worker frantically gathered them up, counted them, and believed they had recovered all of them, but they were wrong. One precious metal planchet had rolled under a piece of equipment and remained there unnoticed. Hours later, during a routine cleaning of the production area, a maintenance worker found this odd-looking planchet on the floor, not knowing what it was and assuming it was just a regular penny blank that had fallen off a conveyor belt. They picked it up and tossed it into the nearest planchet hopper, the hopper that was actively feeding penny blanks into the striking press for regular 1986 D-penny production. And that's when fate took over. That experimental precious metal planchet got fed into the press along with thousands of regular zinc planchets. But here's where it gets even more spectacular. At the exact moment this planchet was struck, the die was experiencing a double die error, meaning the design was being imprinted twice in slightly offset positions, creating a dramatic doubling effect on Lincoln's profile and the lettering. And simultaneously, the planchet wasn't perfectly centered in the die, resulting in an OFF center strike that's about 15% off-center, just enough to show the blank edge of the precious metal while still displaying the full design. This combination of factors, the precious metal composition, the double die error, and the off-center strike, all happening on the same coin at the same moment, is so statistically improbable that mathematicians have calculated the odds at approximately 1 in several trillion. And yet it happened. This coin exists, it's real, it's authenticated, and it's spectacular beyond words.